If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Visa Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, as William Boor, who does great work over at Action Network. He's going to be joining me, and we're going to be chatting with him about what he's seen over the first month or so of the season. We'll break down a few games for Saturday. We'll take a look at some of the disappointing teams from the season thus far. We'll take a look at some of the teams that have been very triumphant as well. We've got ourselves a lot to be able to dissect here from the first month or so of the season, and William won the best at being able to do so. So we're going to be chatting with him in segment number 2. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GNet_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they me does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline, and the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to on this podcast via that 5-star review. While we did not get in any Twitter/X questions, we did get a lot that happened in baseball on Friday, and additionally, we've got ourselves a lot from Edge Boost, because Edge Boost, they make sure that bettors are able to access their funds 24/7, 365 on leap years, 366 days out of the year. And over at Edge Boost, when you utilize the promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G, you get a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit of up to $25. You are able to earn cashback rewards as you use Edge Boost as well, so they make things very, very good for bettors. And how about if we make things all the better by taking a look back at everything that we did see on Friday, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Did see 2 washouts as the Orioles are going to be playing a doubleheader against the Tigers on Saturday, and same goes for the Red Sox and Guardians. And the day did start out with a 4-0 win, with the Cubs being able to best the Philadelphia Phillies. This game did have a bit of a rain delay, and, well, the Phillies, they were in delay of trying to be able to get anything on the board whatsoever. They leave 10 men on base, and Taijuan Walker did not have it in this one. He gives up 2 runs in 3 innings. Bullpen from there wasn't bad. Carlos Hernandez, Tanner Banks, they both give up a run in an inning, but Jose Ruiz, 2 scoreless innings. Orion Kirkering, he gives up nothing in his inning of work, but Colin Reyes had Hip Hip Parade to 5 scoreless innings. Caleb Theobar, Brad Keller, along Drew Pomeranz, and Daniel Palencia were all able to end a scoreless inning, and this could have been much worse for the Phillies, as the Cubs went 4 of 22 with men in scoring position and left 12 men on base. So that was fascinating, to say the least. You also saw out there in San Diego a very low-scoring game as the Padres lost just their second home game of the season. 1-0, the Tampa Bay Rays get the job done. Michael King was very much like a king in this one. He gives up 1 unearned run in 5 innings. He was hurt by his Xander Bogaerts error. He had from there Adrian Morejon, Wandy Peralta, Jeremiah Estrada, Alex Jacob, all in a scoreless inning. But the Boz, Shane Boz, 7 scoreless innings. Manuel Rodriguez, Garrett Clevenger, both able to end a scoreless inning. You had Mr. Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates lending a lot of scoreless innings. 3-0, the Buccos get the job done as Skeens 9 punch-outs and 6 out of third inning scoreless. Ryan Baruchi, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Dennis Santana and David Bednar, they were both able to end a scoreless inning. And for the LA Dodgers, you had Yoshinobu Yamamoto give up 3 runs, one of which earned over the course of 5 innings. Max Muncy did not help his cause with a throwing error. Alex Vesia, Luis Garcia were both able to end a scoreless inning, and Nate Davis was able to give you 2 scoreless innings, but nothing doing when you can't score. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they had a tough time of getting runs up on the board themselves. Chris Sale, he busts out of his funk 8-2. The Atlanta Braves take down the Arizona Diamondbacks. For Sale, he did have 104 pitches used in 5 innings, but allows just 1 run. From there, Daniel De Los Santos, Dylan Lee, Aaron Bummer, they all end a scoreless inning. Jesse Chavez does give up a run in his inning of work, and for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Zach Allen, he gets filled up for 3 runs over the course of 5 innings. You had 2 unearned runs given up by Juan Murillo in his inning of work, and you had 3 runs given up in 3 innings by Gilbert Diaz for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They strand 10 men on base, so not a lot doing for them. Not a lot doing for the Houston Astros either. As a matter of fact, nothing doing for the Houston Astros as they fall by kind of 2-0 to the Kansas City Royals. for the Royals, they are currently actually dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, so they have been a very good under team for you thus far this season, as they have played just 9 overs to 16 unders, and only the New York Mets have been a better under team than them, and there might be one or two other teams that have been just a skoge better to the under. The Texas Rangers certainly have been as well, but still, these have been two very big under teams, as the Astros see themselves 8 overs, 15 unders, and 2 pushes. But that said, for Hayden Wesneski, gives up 2 runs in 5 innings. Those were the lone 2 runs of the game. Stephen Okert, Taylor Scott, Bennett Sousa, they were all able to end a scoreless inning, but for Seth Lugo, he was on it. 8 scoreless innings, and Lucas Ursich, he's able to end a scoreless inning of his own. Lots of scoreless innings out there as well from these two teams, as you had the Milwaukee Brewers fall to the St. Louis Cardinals just by a count of 3-2. As for the Cardinals, not a lengthy start from Chad Patrick. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 4 1/3 innings, but bullpen from there at his back. Grant Anderson is scoreless inning. Greg Yoho, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Tyler Alexander does give up a run in an inning of work, but for the St. Louis Cardinals, case where Matthew Liberatore was able to shut it down. 2 runs, one of which was earned, give it up in 6 innings. Kyle Leahy, Phil Matone, Ryan Helsley, they all are able to end a scoreless inning. The Cincinnati Reds starting to get it going with regards to their offense. 8-7, they take down the Colorado Rockies, as for the Rockies, it was a rocky night for Kyle Freeland, giving up 6 runs in 4 1/3 innings, including a home run to Spencer Steer. Second home run in the campaign from there. Anel Shavili gives up 2 runs in 2 innings. You did have Zach Agnos give you 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Seth Alverson, a scoreless inning, and Scott Alexander out of the bullpen. And for the Rockies, you did have Jordan Beck get home runs number 4 and 5 of the season. He goes deep off of the starter and Andrew Abbott, who gives up 4 runs in 4 innings, and then goes deep off of Tony Santana, who allows that home run in his inning work. Ian Gabot, 2 runs allowed in his inning work. Graham Ashcraft, Taylor Rogers, and Emilio Pagan, they're all able to end a scoreless inning. He had not a lot of scoring out there in New York either, as the Toronto Blue Jays, they find a way to persevere, get the job done against the New York Yankees, this by a count of 4-2, as Toronto now 9 overs, 16 unders, and a push as far this season, as Jose Barrios, very solid start, 5 1/3 innings scoreless. Brandon Little does come up little, he gives up a run in 1 1/3 innings, and Mason Fluharty gives up a run in his 2/3 of an inning of work by Yimi Garcia. A pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Jeff Hoffman, he's able to end a scoreless inning, and Vlad Guerrero Jr. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Home run number 2 of the campaign. He goes deep off of Tim Hill after Carlos Cookie Carrasco actually had a relatively good start. 67 pitches in 5 scoreless innings. From there, Hill gives up that home run in 1 1/3 innings. Ian Hamilton, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Fernando Cruz, Mark Leiter Jr. both on his scoreless inning, but Devin Williams, he gives up 3 runs and he does not record a single out. That's relatively brutal for him. This was a very solid one if you had the under, and for the Mets, they are now 8 overs, 17 unders at a push. That is the best under rate in all of baseball, but the Nationals do get to that bullpen 5-4 the final, as A.J. Minter, he comes in and tries to prevent inherited runners from scoring. Is unable to do so. He gets a third of an inning scoreless, as both of the runs scored were off of Ryan Stanek in that 9th inning. 2 runs allowed in a third of an inning. You did have Kodai Senga along with Oscar Brzobin coming in all down the 4th for Brzobin in long relief. He gets up a run in his inning work, and Senga, really good start. 2 runs allowed in 6 innings out of him. Reed Garrett is able to end a scoreless inning as well. And for the Washington Nationals, while you were able to get a very good start out of Jake Irvin, 1 run allowed over the course of 7 1/3 innings. Jose Ferrer, he was not so good, giving up 3 runs in a third of an inning, but Kyle Finnegan from there, he's able to give you an out of the bullpen scoreless, and Ore Lopez, a scoreless 10th inning for the Washington Nationals, to find a way to be able to get the job done. And finding a way to get the job done, the Minnesota Twins, 11-4, they're able to take to the Los Angeles Angels. For the Halos, it's been a season which they've very much relied upon the deep ball, and they just did not have it going overly much on this night. As you'd have Logan O'Hoppe along with Mike Trout, both combined for now 16 home runs this season, as both were able to go yard in this one. For Trout, he goes off of Cole Sands, who he was pounding Sands after this one, as he allows a solo home run in his inning work, and the other home run given up by Louis Varland, he gave up that solo home run in his inning work. Pablo Lopez back on the mound, he gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings, and Danny Kalum, Justin Topa, both on the scoreless inning. Meanwhile, on the Angels side of things, the Professor got schooled. 7 runs allowed over the course of 3 innings, and he did give up a deep ball to Byron Buxton, his 6th home run in the campaign, and then Trevor Larnach, 4th home run of the season. That comes off of Carl Edwards Jr., who he comes in for 2 innings. He allows 2 runs along the way, and then you had 2 runs allowed in 3 innings by Victor Medeiros. So it was not a great night for the LA Angels, as they're back below 500, and a team that is very much above 500 right now, that would be the Seattle Mariners. But did not look at on this side. They fall to the Miami Marlins by a count of 8-4, and for the Fish, they've been one of your better over teams in all of baseball, as you had AC Sanchez get his first home run of the season. That comes off of Casey Lawrence, and then you also had home run number one of the season from Augustin Ramirez. For Ramirez, he's able to go deep off of Lawrence as well. It was not a great night for him, allowing 8 runs, 2 of which were earned in 5 innings after Logan Gilbert. He looked great through 3 scoreless innings, had 3 strikeouts, but was forced to leave early. Edward Brazzardo from there, he gives a scoreless inning, and it was a Dylan Moore fielding error that really caused things to get out of sorts. And for Seattle, pair of home runs of their own. Dylan Moore does give you more, 6th home run of the season. Then Cal Quantrill gives one up to Ore Polanco. His 5th home run of the campaign for Quantrill, gives up 4 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings. From there, Jesus Tinoco, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Calvin Fauché, Ronnie Enriquez, they're both able to end a scoreless inning out there in San Francisco. The Rangers, they're able to get a 2-0 win over the Giants, and the Rangers now your top under team, 18 unders to 8 overs this season. Nathan Eovaldi, tremendous, 6 scoreless innings. From there, you had Luke Jackson and Chris Martin combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Robert Garcia, a scoreless inning of his own for San Francisco. Justin Verlander gives up 2 runs in 6 innings, so not bad there. Randy Rodriguez is able to go for 2 scoreless innings, and Ryan Walker, he was able to provide a scoreless inning as well, but just not a lot doing for them on this night as well. And after a relatively rock-solid start this season, money line favorites, as overall for the season, they've been hitting at north of 60%, but we have seen a little bit of reversal here. Over the last 7 days, 48 and 41 are these money line favorites, so that's only about 54%. Meanwhile, the under has been very underwhelming, 50 unders to 36 overs. That is a 58.1% hit rate over the last 7 days, and overall for the season, the under is now hitting at north of 52.5%, 192 unders, 173 overs. Meanwhile, the favorites, they're hitting at 60% exactly, 231 and 154 on the money line. So that's what we're seeing right now in baseball, and that's what we all got on Friday. Now let's take a look at Saturday's slate and what we've all seen thus far this season with our good friend William Boor over at Action Network right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Houston Family Podcast.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast, and it's always great to be joined by this man, as William Boor, he does a tremendous job over at Action Network, taking a look at a wide variety of things. We are coming out of what was a very interesting first few days of the NFL Draft. I know that he's been doing amazing work on the baseball front. We've got playoff action, whether that be in the NHL, whether that be in the MLB, or whether that be in the NBA. He's doing a great job of it all, and he does absolutely great work that you're able to find in so many different publications. I know that he's been doing some work over at the New York Post. We've seen him a little bit in the Philadelphia Inquirer as well, and you're able to follow him on Twitter/X at WBoor, that last name spelled B-O-O-R. And William, great to be able to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, Greg. Always happy to hop on, talk betting, talk baseball, and see what we're seeing so far.
Absolutely. And how about if we do take a look at what we've gotten here in the first month or so of the season, as now we are starting to get to one of those, in my opinion, landmark points. Once you get to Memorial Day, in my opinion, you really get a good sense of these teams. But just what have you noticed through the first month of the season? Because I think one of my biggest takeaways from this baseball season has been the way that the favorites have reigned supreme thus far.
Yeah, favorites are looking good. And the other things that I think the AL West is more competitive than I thought it would be. All teams right now are within 2 games of each other. Not that I care about the standings too much at this point, but I kind of did think there would be a gap with the A's and the Angels a little bit further. Also, if you look at the Central, what's going on with the Twins? I mean, I know what's going on. They can't score, but that's kind of been a little bit surprising. And then obviously, I think the big one is just the Braves picked it up a little bit late. That start obviously makes it hard to have a good record, but they just don't look right. I know you're still waiting on Acuna to get back, but you don't want to be 7.5 games back before Memorial Day. That's really never a good sign.
Yeah, and you knew that the first 2 series were going to be rough. When you go on the road against the Padres and the LA Dodgers, if you're able to be anywhere within shouting distance of 500 after those first 2 series, you've done something right. But in my opinion, what's been more concerning has been the series after that, because even against teams like the Miami Marlins, what have you, and to your point, they picked it up a little bit more. It just feels like this is still a very much incomplete team, and it just feels like a team that hasn't necessarily found their identity. And I don't know if you've seen this as well, but it just feels like the bullpen isn't quite there for the Braves in the way that it has been in past years.
Yeah, something's not quite right. And like you mentioned, those first two series, yes, those are two tough teams, but the Braves are supposed to be one of the National League favorites. You shouldn't go 0-6 there. If you take away those two series, they're still 2-5 on the road, which is not great. Yes, they are 8-3 at home, so they're making some of it up. You're supposed to play better at home than on the road. I get all of that, but I'm judging them as an NL East World Series contender. I'm not judging them as a 500 baseball team.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I had high expectations for the Atlanta Braves, and right now they have not lived up to that billing. So I do agree with you there. And just how do you take a look at that entire NL East? Because I do think that that is a very fascinating division with the Philadelphia Phillies having some relatively rock-solid performances to begin the season themselves, but they're at 13-13, and I've got my concerns about Aaron Nola. And for the New York Mets coming into the season, we both had our question marks with the starting pitching, but they've gotten more than enough starting pitching thus far, and you know that if the Mets are even within shouting distance of a playoff spot, they are going to buy at the deadline.
That's the big point right there is they're going to buy. So do I think the Mets are going to have the best rotation in baseball and have a 2 ERA all season? No, of course not. There's probably some regression coming. But that said, these wins all still count. If the regression hits later, it's not like they take these wins away. So the fact that they've won 7 in a row heading into Friday, they've looked really good, and they're not hitting bad, but they're not mashing the way that this lineup's going to when the weather warms up and the ball starts carrying a little bit more. I think this is a really encouraging start for the Mets. I mean, they're outperforming expectations right now. I knew they would be good. I didn't think they were going to be bad or anything like that, but they look really good as opposed to just good, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah, getting guys like Griffin Canning to be able to find their worth thus far has been great. And Clay Holmes coming out of the bullpen and being able to give the team relatively solid starts at 2-1-2 fielding independent for him thus far. That has been absolutely massive. As joining me on the show, we do have William Boor, who does great work over at Action Network, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I think that this team is very fascinating as well. The Cincinnati Reds, because it feels like it's been up, down, all around for them. They're going to be facing off against the Colorado Rockies on Saturday. And for the Colorado Rockies, they start out the year 4-20. That puts them on pace for 27 wins. I hope and pray that they win more than 27 games this season. But in that NL West, who knows what's happening there? But how do you take a look at things for both the Reds and the Rockies moving forward? Because the Rockies, little do people want to recognize, they are on pace to have perhaps a historically bad season in an NL West. I think that you'd agree. Everyone not named the Rockies is really good in that division.
Everyone not named the Rockies is multiple games over 500 in that division. What do I think about the Rockies? I don't know. There's nothing to say about the Rockies. They're awful. But the run differential is minus 59, and we are still in April. You can't even chalk up. I'm looking at the expected win-loss right now. You can't even chalk up bad luck. I mean, I guess you can. In theory, it says they should be 6-18. So,
that'd be great. 6-18.
Exactly. There's
there
two
we
extra
go.
wins. You mentioned the Reds, though. The NL Central is interesting. The Cubs, I feel like every time I look up, the Cubs are scoring 9 runs a game, which is great, but it's still only one win. They're not necessarily running away with the division. You've got the Reds, who are playing right around 500 ball, depending on how tonight goes and when people listen to this. Hunter Green, sneaky Cy Young candidate. I guess he'll go to Coors, which is kind of tough, but also you're facing the Rockies, so I don't even know. The Reds are interesting. They're going to be fun. They're a team that I know my colleague Sean Zerillo this year was really high on Francona Manager of the Year as kind of ways to play their futures, because he didn't want to necessarily back them to win the division or make the playoffs. And that was kind of a way of, if they exceed their win total, but also maybe if they fall a half game short, you could still cash it like that. And we're obviously got a long ways to go. But plays like that are looking good early. They're getting a lot of good contributions. And also just the way they play, they're fun.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I have loved what I've seen. Now, the Reds had a few of those 1-0 losses towards the beginning part of the season that I was off-putting, and I actually look at that 10.5 to the under, because I do think that the Reds are very much skewed with that 24-run performance that we saw against the Baltimore Orioles. And how much do you want to take things like that into account? Because when it comes to betting lines, obviously they're taking into account the full season data, but I look at a team like the Cincinnati Reds, and I think that because of that 24-run outburst against the Baltimore Orioles, their totals are now being set a little bit too high, and I think that we can find some good value on outliers. Like, for example, the Brewers, they were so terrible with their bullpen in that first series against the New York Yankees. Still haven't been great this year, but I think things like that, taking a look at some of these outlier series, that one game that I mentioned with the Reds, can be very much your friend this time of year where the sample size is so small.
You hit the nail on the head with the sample size thing, because anytime you look at something like runs per game or even a pitcher's ERA or a batting average, the sample size is so small that that 24-run outburst is obviously going to have a much more significant on the Reds just runs per game, team batting average than it would if we were just having the same conversation in July. If a starting pitcher tonight gives up 7 runs in 2 innings, it sucks. It happens. It's going to happen to everyone over the course of the year. But if it happens now, their ERA jumps 3 runs. If it happens in July, it jumps like 0.7 or whatever. So I think you're right. There are ways to attack the markets early in the season. And even if it's not attacking the markets, sometimes the best bet is the bet you don't make. And I think being aware of, recency bias, because you're like, hey, I saw the Reds score 24 runs last week. And it's like, you did, but calm down. They're not going to score 24 again tomorrow. They might. It's the Rockies. But sometimes you got to just be aware of recency bias and the outliers that we can see in 1 game or 2 games of baseball just on a day-to-day basis.
And more specifically, it's not just Rockies, it's Antonio Sensatello, who I swear is a human pinata with the way that he just gives up so many hits as well. So there's that aspect of things, but certainly very interesting to take a look at this Reds team moving forward, as we do have William Boor, does such great work over at Action Network, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And we've got ourselves some very intriguing games that are going to be going down on Saturday, because I know that you were mentioning this, the Minnesota Twins being a little bit of a disappointment this year, and the LA Angels. Honestly, they've given me a little bit more than I was thinking they would to begin the season. Guys like Kyron Paris, I don't know if they're going to be able to continue their power numbers, as it's been a little bit of an all-or-nothing approach for the Angels at the plate. But got Yusei Kikuchi against Simeon Woods Richardson. The Twins about a -115 to a -120 favorite. How do you look at both this game and both of these teams? As for the LA Angels, I think that there's a chance for them to be able to give you something okay out there in the AL West. I'm not saying they're making the playoffs or anything like that, but I'm starting to buy in on them a little bit more. And to your point about the Minnesota Twins, I think that maybe there was just a lot of people wrong on this team coming into the season.
Yeah, I'm with you. The Twins have been disappointing, and I'm with you as well on the Angels kind of giving us more than we all bargained for. Been impressive. I'm curious to see how the Angels looked Friday, because they had the late flight into Minnesota Wednesday night / early Friday morning. I just want to kind of see the fatigue. If they just look awful on Friday, I might just pass on them Saturday and think this weekend might have kind of been a screw up, since they had a night game on getaway day on Wednesday. But assuming they look normal and everything seems fine, I kind of think they're a live dog here, mainly because it's more of a fade on the Twins than anything. I've just been disappointed in what I've seen from Minnesota this year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And with Minnesota, this team just can't stay healthy to save their lives. Royce Lewis back on the injured list. Matt Wallner hits the injured list. Byron Buxton is currently healthy, but if the wind is blowing out the wrong way, he might be landing on the injured list as well. So that's the way that's been going for the Minnesota Twins. So I do agree with you there. And when it comes to what we've got on Saturday, we also have a pair of doubleheaders with the Guardians and the Red Sox playing 2, the Orioles and the Detroit Tigers playing 2 as well. And right now we don't have as many numbers with regards to these games. So it looks like we're going to get Tanner Houck versus Ben Lively in one of those games for the Guardians. And we were able to gauge what we were getting in terms of numbers before that game went off the board. But how do you take a look at those 2 doubleheaders? Because those are 4 teams out there in the American League that I think are all very intriguing. And with the Tigers, I've loved what I've seen out of them. Guardians, it's been a little bit interesting. And then those 2 teams out there in the AL East, I think that they're a part of one of the more competitive divisions in all of baseball. And it looks like Charlie Martin might be getting a start for the Orioles. And I think that we can both agree that's not good for the Orioles.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I was on the Guardians before it got postponed. I really like the Lively over Houck matchup. Guardians much better at home. Tanner just hasn't looked that good for Boston. The second game, I don't know. I hate betting the second games of doubleheaders because you don't know where the bullpen's going to be, just what's going to happen. So I usually avoid game 2s in general. And then like you said on the other side, I'm looking right now. It says TBD for Detroit on the Charlie Morton game. That's depending on who that is. That's definitely an over spot that I probably want to target. In the first game, it looks like it's Young and Mize taking the ball, in which case, me Detroit and give me Casey Mize. He's been throwing well. And Baltimore is kind of another team I'm sure they'll figure it out. I have a lot of faith in the Orioles. There's a lot of talent on that roster. They're kind of treading water right now before they really get going. So I'm going to, take the good money on Detroit while I can, and I'll probably be on the Orioles plenty over the summer as they get going.
Yep, I am as well. And I do think that for Baltimore, just being able to get guys like Gunnar Henderson and company going as well at the plate, because they've had a lot of, shall we say, lesser guys be able to step up. Cedric Mullins has had a really nice season for them. But if you're able to get Henderson, if you're able to get a bit more out of Adley Rutschman, I think that that's going to be big for them. And that is going to be a very interesting set of games as well. And when it comes to what we've all got on Saturday, is there anything else that you are taking a look at, whether that be a game in particular, whether that be a pitcher or two that you want to see a little bit more from? I think that's just really standing out to you.
Yeah, I'm going to want to be on the Yankees. Max Fried's throwing the ball really, really well. And I know we talked about him a little bit earlier. I'm probably going to be on the Phillies with Jesus Luzardo taking the mound. I know that Cubs offense is scary. They're scoring like 40 runs every night. You open up Luzardo's Baseball Savant page, there's just a lot of red there. He's throwing the ball really well. K percentage through the roof, chase rate, expected ERA, yes, his ERA is 2.08. Expect some regression, but expected ERA is 2.63, which I will still obviously take. I really like the Phillies with Luzardo on the mound tomorrow.
Yeah, Jesus Luzardo has been tremendous for the team this season. His swing and miss stuff has been absolutely incredible, and I do think that he's going to be able to go out there, give you a nice performance against a Cubs team, of which they've been able to do a nice job with regards to their offense, but I do think that the conditions are going to be very favorable for Jesus Luzardo and company with that old Wrigley Field wind blowing in, it looks like, for Saturday, so that's something that's going to be able to help him out, just like you, William, do a great job of helping me out on this podcast whenever you join. You lend such great insights. You cover a little bit of everything over there at Action Network, so love the good people at home. Know it's all on tap for you, and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, on Twitter and Blue Sky at WBoor, WBOOR. If you just want the bets, you can find me in the Action Network app at William Boor _, all one word. And if you want to hear from my colleagues instead of just me, be sure to check out actionnetwork.com or download the Action Network app. We've got everything you need to bet the NFL draft, baseball, hockey, football, anything you want, we will put up odds for and figure it out.
Absolutely. And William, he does such an amazing job taking a look at this great game that we all know love of baseball. And every single time he joins me, on such great insight. So a big thanks to William for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It is always a pleasure to be able to get William Boor aboard. He does a tremendous job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. Did so once again today, so a big thanks to William for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at GNet_D1. We're going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. The there is a twist today because we did have a few games that got rained out between the Red Sox and the Guardians and the Orioles versus the Tigers yesterday. When you have a rained out game and you have a double dip the next day, that means that they have to add the games to the bottom of the board because the board was already set. So when it does get to Orioles and Tigers and Red Sox Guardians, I'm just going to do both of those games together. I don't want to give you guys the stats for similar players twice. So that'll keep things nice, clean, and easy there as well. So how about if we do get things started with 901, 902 on the betting board? The Milwaukee Brewers, and they're facing off against the St. Louis Cardinals. Sonny Gray is on the bump for the Cards. Quinn Breister is on the bump for the Brew Crew. 7.5 is the total, over and under, both between -105 to -115, -150 to -160, that number on St. Louis, and between +130 to +138, that number on the Crew. Right now with the Cardinals, I set them at a -156 on the money line. If you're looking to lay a run half with them, you're able to get as high as +140 right now, and I would be willing to take that +140 run line. As for Breister, he's looked rock solid with the Brewers. I know that he's added a little bit of zip with that fastball ever since he was over with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he's been able to do a nice job of being able to keep things down in his first 3 starts with a .93 ERA, but he's issuing 5.8 walks per 9 innings, 7.1 strikeouts per 9. We saw him be a little bit shaky in his time with the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't think that this is going to be long-lasting, and Sonny Gray has been much better when he has been at home rather than away from home for the St. Louis Cardinals. As a matter of fact, his ERA when he is at home is about 2 points lower as a member of the St. Louis Cardinals at home rather than on the road, but I do think that he's doing for a little bit of regression. 388 fielding independent compared to a 341 ERA with a long 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, and these are a pair of bullpens that have been awful this season. For the Cardinals, they entered into the series ranked 25th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA with a little bit north of 5. I love Ryan Elsley, and I feel like Phil Matone was a relatively good at as well, but Jojo Romero has not necessarily been himself this far this season. We've had a few other guys like a Ryan Fernandez that just have not come to the forefront, and the Brewers are better than the bullpen ERA of 28th would indicate, because you've got a lot of the guys that are back from a season ago where they had the top bullpen ERA in the National League, where you've got guys like Jared Koenig, Yo Piams, Trevor McGill, all those guys, and Abner Uribe has been rock solid as well, but I mean, it certainly has been a little bit of a departure there. And for the Brewers, you do have a pair of guys in Bryce Terang, Sal Frelick. They're both hitting above a 300 for this unit. You've been able to get a lot more out of Rhys Hoskins recently as well, so very encouraged as to what he's bringing to the table. Christian Yelich just not that same MVP guy that he was a few seasons ago, but that said, he still has been able to give the team 5 home runs along with Jackson Chourio thus far this season. Where you really have your strife and trepidation is the guys like Joey Ortiz, Caleb Durbin, Vinny Capra at the bottom of the lineup. And then for the St. Louis Cardinals, you've been able to get quite a bit out of Victor Scott. Not going to give you a lot of power, but he's hitting for like a 275. Brendan Donovan is hitting about a 350 right now, so he's been rock solid there. Jordan Walker is really starting to fall off after a nice start to the season, but I do think that Wilson Contreras, who's had a miserable start to the season, he's going to start to pick it up, while Nolan Arenado is not giving you a ton of power. He's doing a nice job being able to move the line as well, so it's an interesting circumstance here. I do think that the Cardinals are going to be able to get to Breister, and they're going to get to a bullpen that just hasn't been the same as it was a season ago. I did set my total at 8.2. I do like the over, and with the St. Louis Cardinals getting that plus 140 run line, I'm going to take a shot there. 903, 904 on the betting board, the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we are on to Cincinnati. They're on to the road, facing off against the Colorado Rockies. Antonio Senzatella is on the bump for the Rockies, and Hunter Green goes for the Reds, and the Reds do find themselves as massive favorites, setting between -182 to a -192, between plus 158 to a plus 166 is that number on Colorado, and right now that total is 10.5. The under is -115, the over is -105, and if you're looking to lay a run half with the Reds, you're going to be finding that right now at a -135, and I would like to see this come down to more like a -125 or so, because I did set my run line price more around a -127, mainly because I did set my total at a 9.6, so I'm going to be in on this total under. Hunter Green has been absolutely nasty for the Reds this season, giving up 2 runs or fewer in 4 out of his first 5 starts of the season. Did give up a 5 spot the last time out, but even though the Colorado Rockies do a much better job of being able to hit when they're at home rather than away from home, it's still not like they're the number 1 offensive team when they're at home this season. They've been averaging about 5 runs per contest over at Coors. They average right around 2 runs per game when they're away from home, but even with that, the Rockies are 3-6 at home this far this season as well, so they just have not been able to give you much in terms of offense anywhere. Hunter Goodman has been able to give the team 4 home runs, and I believe that all 4 have actually come on the road this season, and Certainly with the Colorado Rockies, you're getting better than a north of 200 batting average when you're at home, because away from them, they're actually hitting below 200. This is more like 255 when they are in their friendly confines. But that said, they're averaging a home run per game. You've had Ryan McMahon hitting at 300 at home. Brenton Doyle, when he's been out there, has been really good for this team, and he's all good to go here. So that's something that you do like to see at home. He's been hitting like a 390, but again, small sample size on that front end. Even some of these guys like a Zach Veen, Jacob Stallings, Jordan Beck, not even Coors Field can help these guys out in terms of being able to supply offense. And for the Cincinnati Reds, their offensive numbers have been very much skewed by the fact that they had 24 runs in that game against the Baltimore Orioles. Ellie De La Cruz has been able to supply the team with 5 home runs this season, though. His on-base percentage hovering right around at 320. You'd like to see a little bit more there. You've had Christian Encarnacion and Strand being out of the fold, so that's hurt them a little bit. And Matt McLain, while he's given the team 4 home runs, he's hitting below the Mendoza line of a 200. Jake Fraley is starting to give you a little bit more, but Jameer Candelario has been a disappointment. Like TJ Friedel, Gavin Lux, they're doing a good job of being moved line. And this is a Reds bullpen that it's not going to be the most dominant in all of baseball or anything like that, but I think that you've got some relatively solid arms. You've got, if you guys are able to come in, hold down the fort like Taylor Rogers, Brent Suter, Ian Gabo has been a little bit shaky this year, but he, along with Scott Barlow, are going to be able to find it. I'm just not an Emilio Pagan guy. He gives up way too many home runs, but that said, it's much better than what you're able to get out of the Colorado Rockies. As for the Rockies right now, Victor Vodnik, who had the lowest ERA in that bullpen last year, is currently on the injured list. Anel Shavili is just really nothing special. You've actually gotten some good innings out of Jimmy Harrigan thus far this season, but it's hard for me to be able to have a lot of faith in them. And for Antonio Senzatello, this guy just gives up hits upon hits upon hits. He's right now allowing north of 16 hits per 9 innings this season. He has absolutely no swing and miss stuff. He's actually 3.3 strikeouts per 9. The fact that he only has a 4.81 ERA without he's pitched this far this season is honestly a miracle, considering he's giving up a home run and a half per 9 innings. I do think that the Reds are going to be able to get to him, but that said, I do think that this is going to be a bit of a lower scoring game, just because with Senzatelli, even though he gives up a billion hits, he actually does a good job of not allowing as much hard contact. And with the Reds, I do feel like their offensive numbers have been a little bit skewed, so I did set my total at 9.6. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under. If we could get more like a minus 127 in terms of this run line, most places as I am doing this podcast, I have yet to post up any sort of a run line price. I'd be taking a look there. If not, I might be willing to take a little bit of chalkier money line. I set mine at a minus 188. Right now I'm seeing a lot of like minus 180, minus 182 or so I'll be on the Reds in some form or capacity to go along with this total under. 905, 906 on the betting board. The Philadelphia Phillies are on the road against the Chicago Cubs, as you've got Ben Brown on the bump for the Cubbies, and Jesus Luzardo is on the bump for the Philadelphia Phillies. Right now with the Cubs, you're finding them right around about even money, minus 102, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, you're getting them between minus 108 to a minus 112. No total up on this game, as this is a Wrigley Field game, so you're not going to be getting those until the AM, but I did set my total at a 6.9. At a 7 or higher, I'm going to be in on the under. At a 6.5 or less, I'm going to be in on the over, and I'm pretty much going to be taking whoever's plus money in this one. I did set the Chicago Cubs at a minus 101, so if we can find them just to go down like 2 cents, and I do think that that should be happening when it's all said and done with regards to this pitching matchup. If we can get like even money or better, I'd be willing to take a shot on the Cubs on the money line. And for Ben Brown, he's been a guy that has went from being a starter to being a reliever to being a starter to being a reliever. He's been up, down, all around for the Chicago Cubs team, but I mean, he's been very good in terms of his swing and miss stuff. The shall we say command, they leave something to be desired. In his 2 seasons at the MLB level, he has given up about 3.7 walks per 9 innings, but he's getting 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. A 3.86 ERA compared to a 3.50 fielding independent over these last 2 seasons. And for Luzardo, he's been able to deliver some really nasty stuff for the Philadelphia Phillies, as right now he's supplying a 2.08 ERA. His strikeouts per 9 rate is above 10, so absolutely love what he's been able to show thus far this season. He's got a 177 fielding independent, by the way, so that makes things all the more impressive. But that said, I do think that you are going to be seeing this Cubs team be able to chase him just a little bit earlier than he's expecting, because even though the wind is going to be blowing in Wrigley Field, this team is doing a nice job of being able to play station-to-station baseball. You've got a guy, Nico Horner, who's been able to darn near 300 for this team. You've been able to have a really nice pickup over the offseason, and Kyle Tucker be able to come to the forefront, give you north of a 400 on base. Ian Happ is really starting to be able to give you some nice contact. Only 2 home runs thus far this season, but hitting at 275. Seiya Suzuki along with Tucker, I mentioned before, a combined 13 home runs out of these 2 guys. And Carson Kelly, 6 home runs and 41 at-bats. He's hitting well above a 300 as well. So even if the wind is blowing in, guys like Michael Busch, they're able to move line for this Cubs team. Now, for the Cubs, what they have really been lacking this far this season has been good bullpen pitching, as they actually had a really good bullpen towards back half of the season last year, but this season, it's been a little bit of a reversal for them. Ryan Presley has not been bad ever since coming on over from the Astros, but that said, you've had guys like a Porter Hoge, who was so good towards back half of the season last year, have his issues. Ryan Brazier is currently on the injured list. Nate Pearson has been a little bit banged up, and when he and Eli Morgan have actually been out there on the field, they have been absolutely awful for the team, so they've been looking to do some mixing and matching. I know that they've been giving Drew Pomeranz a little bit of opportunity as well, and that guy is about 500 billion years old, so a little bit of an issue there. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, this has been one of the lesser bullpens in the big leagues as well. Orion Kerkering has had his issues this season. I do like what you're able to get out of Jose Alvarado along with Matt Strahm, but when you do get into something like a Joe Ross, Jose Ruiz, these guys are a little bit of a roll of the dice. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, you've had Kyle Schwarber just absolutely terrorizing pitchers, a 400 on base, 7 home runs. You'll love to be able to see that. And you've got guys that, even though their power numbers are down, they have been still able to move the line, find a way on base. Bryson Stott hitting about a 285. Bryce Harper still about a 375 on base. He's up to 5 home runs now this season, but just 21 home runs for the first 25 games of the season for the Philadelphia Phillies. You have to figure that Trey Turner can hit above a 250 like he is right now. JT Realmuto has been a little bit down, so it is a little bit of an interesting circumstance. I do have just a little bit more faith here in the Cubs, even though Ben Brown not quite on the same, shall we say, level as Luzardo. So if I'm able to get even money or better on the Cubs, I'm looking at them on the money line. Then 7 or higher, I'm in on the under. 6.5 or higher to the over, mainly because you got Wrigley Field winds are going to be blowing in at a double figure amount of miles per hour. Not necessarily going to be super warm out there in Chicago. 907, 908 on the betting board. The New York Mets at the road, they're facing off against the Washington Nationals. As Brad Lord says, "Oh Lord, I'm getting another start for the Washington Nationals." And Clay Holmes is on the bum for the Metropolitans. And the Mets are between minus 170 to minus 180 favorites, and between plus 150 to plus 155. That number on Washington, with 9.5 being the total. The under is minus 120, the over is even. And if you're looking to lay a run half with the New York Mets, you're going to be finding that at a minus 115. And I'm going to go to a minus 125 on that run line. So going to be siding with the Mets run line. Brad Lord, since taking over as a starter for the Washington Nationals, began his season out there in the bullpen. Hasn't been awful, hasn't been great. The 6 walks per 9 innings is not great, but he's been able to mitigate hard contact. You have to figure that he's probably going to go like 3, maybe 4 innings. He just hasn't been able to deliver a lot of length. And additionally, with jacking up his pitch count, with giving up all those walks, that has knocked him out of a lot of starts early. And this is not necessarily the Washington Nationals bullpen that you want to be trusting in, though. For the New York Mets, bullpen has actually been very good for them. The Mets currently find themselves in the top 3 in terms of bullpen ERA. Can't say that I'm necessarily overly bullish on the likes of Reed Garrett along with Ryan Stanek, guys like that, but they have been amazing this year. Oscar Brazobin as a long guy who they did have to utilize yesterday. He's been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. You've got Jose Buto, Max Chronic, who have been able to do a nice job of being able to fill some innings. And for the Nationals, though this bullpen is not great, they did get a really good start out of Jake Irvin yesterday, so that means that you're going to see less of likes of Colin Boucher, Jose Ferreira, guys like this. They're relying upon Oriol Lopez, Kyle Finnegan to be able to be your rock-solid guys. And Cole Henry, in a small sample size, has looked relatively solid as well, but certainly do have my question marks there. And for the Washington Nationals, this is a lineup that still has some unanswered questions. Dylan Cruz starting to pick it up a little bit, but entered into yesterday hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. Jacob Young has been a hit-or-miss guy all season long, starting to be able to move the line, give this team a little bit more. But that said, you have really been relying upon James Wood, CJ Abrams at the top lineup. Getting back Abrams is big. He's had a less than 280 on base, but he's given you good power. James Wood up to 8 home runs. And Nathaniel Lowe has done a nice job of being able to splice and boom as well. And for the Mets, you know that Juan Soto is going to be able to give you those home runs sooner rather than later. Still giving you north of a 350 on base. Along Francisco Lindor. Brandon Nimmo has had a rough time in terms of being able to find a way on along with Mark Vientos, but Nimmo's still giving you good power. Francisco Alvarez, he's back after missing the front half of the season due to injury along with Jeff McNeil, so reinforcements are on the way for the New York Mets. And I do think that Clay Holmes, guy that has yet to give up a home run this season, his walks numbers are a little bit high. He's been giving up 4.5 walks per 9 innings, but nice stuff with 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He fills some good innings. He lets the bullpen take over and get the job done for the Mets. I did set the Mets at a minus 125 on that run line, so looking at that run line, and I'm in on the under. Sub I total at an 8.6. 909, 910 on the betting board. The Atlanta Braves hit the road. They're facing off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Grant Holmes is on the bum for the Braves, and for the Saints, you've got Merrill Kelly. And right now with the Diamondbacks, you're going to be getting them as very slight favorites here of between minus 115 to a minus 120, and between even money to plus 106. That is your number on Atlanta. 9.5 is the total. Under is minus 115. The over is minus 105, and for the Diamondbacks would be willing to go up to a -116 on that money line. I did set them at a -116 for Grant Holmes. He's done a good job of just mixing and matching, sometimes being out there in the bullpen, sometimes being a starter, so he's had to go back and forth a little bit with that regard, and he's been able to do a nice job of filling both voids over the last 2 seasons. He has seen his walks numbers go up this season, as in his 5 total appearances, he is giving up about 5.5 walks per 9 innings, but is allowing less than a home run per 9 innings. He's getting 9 strikeouts per 9, 3.22 ERA. The 4.23 fielding dependent, a little bit jarring with regards to those walks because he is backed up by a Braves bullpen that isn't quite what it was in past years, with losing some like in AJ Minter. Now, if you're able to get the closer and Rocio Iglesias going, you feel relatively good about that. And I will say Aaron Bummer, he's not terrible, he's not necessarily amazing, so you've got a lot of guys like that are currently in this bullpen, and additionally you have been able to get some good innings of Desmond Hernandez, Dylan Lee and company. But for the Atlanta Braves, it's just been very sketchy with regards to the offense this season, even though you've been able to have quite a bit of production recently out of Austin Riley. 6 home runs, back dating about a 3. Marcell Ozuna just picking up right where he left off last season as well. But likes of Ozzy Albies, Nick Allen, Eli White, you got these guys at the bottom of the fold that aren't giving you too much. Sean Murphy, all of the balls that he's hitting are flying over the fence. First 9 hits of the season, 6 of them have been home runs. Alex Verdugo coming into the fold should be able to help out this team, but for the Diamondbacks, they do have the number 1 offense in all baseball since the beginning of the 2024 campaign, and Corbin Carroll, man, this guy's been tremendous, hitting well above 300, right around a 400 on base with 9 home runs to start the season going into yesterday. Lourdes Gurriel not hitting for a lot of average along, and Eugenio Suarez, but both of those guys have a combined 10 home runs thus far this season. You've had Tim Tebow give you 4 home runs in his first 36 at-bats as well. Geraldo Perdomo is moving the line, so I mean, for the years under Diamondbacks, that's been rock solid, even though you do have A.J. Puck, who was landed on the injured list, and Jalen Beeks is dealing with a little bit of injury as well. That does hurt the bullpen, but even with that, the likes of a Shelby Miller, Justin Martinez, Ryan Thompson, these are pretty reliable guys in the bullpen as well. And for Mel Kelly, he had that really rough start against the New York Yankees. I believe that he gave up 9 runs in total in that start, but past that, he's been pretty rock solid this far this season. The 4.73 ERA, it is skewed by that because in all of his other starts, he has allowed 2 earned runs or fewer. He's not getting a ton of swings and misses right now, about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's making sure that he's able to keep the ball in the yard, only giving up about a home run per 9 innings, so 4.26 fielding dependent compared to 4.73 ERA. Shows how good he's been pitching in those starts outside of New York, so I did set my total at 9.1. I do like the under, and I do think that the Diamondbacks get the job done. We'll lay up to a -116 on that money line. 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board. The LA Dodgers play host the Pittsburgh Pirates. Mitch Keller goes for the Buccos. Roki Sasaki is on the bump for the Dodgers. The Dodgers Mondo -250 to -267 favorites, +215 to +229. That number on Pittsburgh. It is the total. The over is -120. The under is even. And if you're looking to lay a run F with the Dodgers, you're going to be finding that in that neighborhood about a -120 to a -125. And set my number at a -148. I am going to be willing to lay that run line for Mitch Keller. He just has not been the same pitcher when he has been away from home rather than when he has been at home. And for Mitch Keller thus far this season, I'm not going to say that it's been absolutely terrible, but certainly for Mitch Keller over the last 2 seasons, it's been a little bit shaky for him. As Keller, he has seen his swing and miss stuff just drop down a little bit over the last 2 seasons. He's only been able to get closer to about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, and for Keller thus far this season, he's got a 391 fielding dependent as he's kept the ball in the yard, only giving up 2 home runs in 28 innings, but a little bit north of 3 walks per 9 innings. Swing and miss stuff just has not been there for him thus far this season, and much of it and the failures that he's had throughout his career have been coming on the road. You just take a look at his home and road split since he came into the big league level in the 2019 campaign. 4.07 home ERA, 5.14 ERA on the road, and on the road he just gives up a lot of hard contact, giving up north of 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. And for Roki Sasaki, first 2 starts, he just could not throw a strike to save his life, but last few appearances, he's been very rock solid. He's been able to lengthen himself out. Last 2 starts, a combined 3 runs allowed over the course of 11 innings. Wasn't getting a lot of swings and misses in either of those 2 starts, but still was able to rein it in terms of command. He's been keeping the ball down and not giving up a lot of hard contact in general, so I do think that there's some upside there. And even if you don't get the world's greatest start out of Roki Sasaki, you still have a Dodgers team that, despite having the likes of Michael Kopech, Bruce Gratterall out of that bullpen, you still have guys like Evan Phillips, who just came back, Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates. All these guys are able to hold down the fort. Anthony Banda has been able to give you some good innings out there. And for the LA Dodgers, last few weeks, the offense has been a little bit hit or miss. You do have to expect that someone like an Andy Pages, Max Muncy, guys that entered in the series, hitting below the Mendoza line of 200, they're going to be able to pick it up. Tommy Edman has been very good for this bunch. He's been able to supply 8 home runs. He's hitting for north of 255 275. Teoscar Hernandez, Shohei Ohtani, both at 6 bombs. Both of these guys in that neighborhood about a 270, and you know that Ohtani, 370 or so on base, that's going to be going northward. Mookie Betts, 360 on base, that's going to be going northward as well. Will Smith has really gotten jiggy with it whenever he's been out there for the team as well, so do have to like what you're seeing there. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, this is one of the more suspect offenses in all baseball. O'Neal Cruz has been solid. He's been able to supply the team with 7 home runs and is more consistently getting on base, right around about 350 on base, but there's nobody outside of him that has north of 3 home runs as far this season, so that's been an issue. As Brian Reynolds starting to pick it up, back up to north of a 320 on base, 3 home runs entering into yesterday, but Brian Hayes, he's not giving you a lot of power, he's not giving you a lot of average. Tommy Pham, Jack Swiniski, Andy Rodriguez, Jared Trollo, all these guys hanging below the Mendoza 200. That's been an issue for them. Andrew McCutcheon is anxious at this point, but when he gets at bats, he's able to move the line just a little bit. And for the Pirates, David Bednar, he's back up after he was at the minor league level and just frankly has stunk over last year. Colin Holderman has had his issues. Now, you do have someone in Caleb Ferguson that pitched for the Dodgers in the past. He's able to give you a few okay innings, but it is a very sketchy bullpen with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I do think that the Dodgers are going to be able to do a nice job of getting into calorie. They are going to be able to get to just what you've got in general with regards to this Pirates bullpen as well. So this is a circumstance where I did set my total at an 8.6. I do like the over, and I do like the Dodgers on the run line. Willing to go up to a minus 148. 913, 914 on the betting board. The Toronto Blue Jays hit the road. They're facing off against the New York Yankees. Max Fried is on the bump for the Yankees, and Kevin Gausman is on the bump for the Blue Jays. Total on this game between 8.5 and 9 on the 8.5. Over is minus 118, and the under is minus 102 on the 9. The under is minus 120, and the over is even. And I did set the Yankees at a minus 161 on the money line. Right now, if you're taking a look at laying a run half with the New York Yankees, you're going to be finding that between about a plus 110 to a plus 115. I would need closer to about a plus 120 to be able to fire in there. And right now with the Blue Jays, if we could just inch up a few more cents, I'm right now seeing as high as 156, need at least plus 161. We'll be taking a look at them on the money line as Kevin Gausman has been able to find his swing and miss stuff once again. It dipped towards the back half of the season last year. To begin this season, he had just 4 strikeouts in his first 3 starts, but ever since then, his last 3, he's been able to get 22 strikeouts and has been able to deliver some good performances in that time span as well, allowing 6 total earned runs over the course of 22 innings. So, do like what I'm seeing there from him. So, even though he's got overall for the season 359 fielding dependent, just 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, he's been able to find that good form once again. And for Max Fried, he has been tremendous. A sub 150 ERA as a member of the New York Yankees, has allowed 2 earned runs or fewer in all 5 of his starts, and we saw the game yesterday in which you saw Carlos Cookie Carrasco give you a good start along with Jose Barrios. Both of these teams seem to be running into form with regards to their pitching, and for the Blue Jays, even though I do have a few question marks in terms of this bullpen, you've had someone like Chad Green be able to step up, be able to give you some good innings, and is actually a man that was on the New York Yankees for quite a bit of time. Yibi Garcia has yet to give up an earned run thus far this season, and for the Blue Jays, I do think that this bullpen could continue to be rock solid. Even Mason Fluharty has been able to give you some good innings. And then for the Yankees, the bullpen could be a little bit hit or miss. They did have to use up likes of Ian Hamilton, Tim Hill yesterday, but Ian Hamilton was used for 2 pitches, so he can conceivably come back. You've had Devin Williams be very shaky for the team, but Luke Weaver has been able to do a tremendous job. And for the New York Yankees, even though they have been one of the top scoring teams in all of baseball, their numbers are still very much skewed from that first series of the season against the Milwaukee Brewers. You've had Paul Goldschmidt not give you a lot of power, but he's really moving line. I think north of a 350 with north of a 400 on base. Jazz Chisholm, he's been able to give you some nice power in terms of giving you 7 home runs, but staying below the Mendoza 200. You've had Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells towards the bottom of the lineup have their, shall we say, issues. Now Aaron Judge north of a 500 on base, and all the power that he's got in Trent Grisham has been rock solid, but for the Toronto Blue Jays, they're giving you a lot in terms of like doubles power. They're doing a nice job finding a way on base, but not a lot of home run power. Vlad Jr. just gets his 2nd home run season yesterday, but he's been able to give you about a 370 on base. George Springer is giving you north of 400 on base. The guys at the bottom of the lineup, Leander Kirk, Addison Barger, you expect a little bit more there, but when you've got Bo Bichette out there, he's been able to do a nice job of being able to find a way on base as well. So it leads to a very interesting sort of scenario here. I did set my total at an 8.1. I think that this total is too high. I like the way that Gausman and Fried are pitching right now, and I do think that with the New York Yankees, again, the numbers are a little bit skewed from what we saw towards the beginning part of the season, so I'm in on the under, and if we can get north of plus 160 on the Blue Jays on the money line, which we might be able to, this is a number that has been moving quite a bit right now in a lot of places. I'm seeing a plus 155. We'll be willing to take a shot on that money line. 915, 916 on the betting board. This is going to be in conjecture with 931, 932 on the card. It is the Baltimore Orioles on the road against the Detroit Tigers. We're going to get the matchup that we were supposed to get on Friday in terms of the early game, as it is going to be Casey Mize on the bump for the Detroit Tigers, and Brandon Young is going to be going for the Orioles. In terms of game number 2, it was lining up to be Jackson Jobe against Charlie Morton. Morton is confirmed for the Orioles. Right now for the Tigers, it's TBD, but we'll let that game second. First things first, in terms of Young versus Casey Mize, no change in terms of handicap that I had yesterday in comparison to today. I'm going to be willing to lay it with the Tigers. I set them at a minus 143 when this game went off the board. In a lot of places, the Tigers were in that neighborhood about a minus 120, and you're seeing that total at an 8.5 shaded up to the over. And if we do get that 8.5, once again, I will be in on the under. I did set my total at an 8.2, and for Casey Mize, he's coming off of major surgery. This is year number 2 coming off of it. Swing and miss stuff is not amazing. He's only getting about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but the command is really good since coming back at the beginning part of the season last year. He's been giving out less than 2.7 walks per 9 innings. He's doing a nice job not giving up a lot of just bad contact in general as well, which I do like to see, and this is going to be start number 2 of the young career of Brandon Young, who Young was solid at the minor league level, wasn't necessarily amazing, so I am very intrigued to see what he's going to be able to give this team moving forward, as he allowed 7 hits in his first start of his career a few days ago. He gave up 3 runs in that time span, and he's backed up by a bullpen that is currently 24th of the big leagues in terms of ERA. You've got Yunier Cano, Felix Bautista, like what these guys are able to provide. And Brian Baker is not bad in that bullpen, but when you get into the likes of Keegan Aiken and company, Cionel Perez, it could be a big giant roll of the dice. And as we know with this Detroit Tigers team, this bullpen is just absolutely rock solid. They pick up Tommy Kahnle in the offseason. I absolutely love what he's able to bring to the table. Brian Herder is able to give you multiple innings. You always want to be avoiding Kenta Maeda. Kenta Maeda is just not good anymore, but that said, the likes of John Brebbio, who's been dealing with a little bit of injury, Tyler Holton, Will Vest, guys like this, they've been able to do a solid job there. And for the Detroit Tigers, this has become an upper half of the big league team in terms of run creation. Zach McKinstry, when he's been out there, has been able to provide north of a 400 base. Riley Green, not necessarily moved the line a ton. You expect him to give you more than a 275 on base, 3 home runs, but even with him being a little bit lackluster to begin the season, Kerry Carpenter, 5 bombs, he's hitting at 300. Spencer Torkelson, right around about a 370 on base, 7 home runs out of him. Dylan Dingler at the catcher spot, he's been able to supply a trio of bombs, he's hitting at 275. You have a few guys like Justin Henry Malloy at the bottom lineup that have been a little bit rough, but bringing in Gleyber Torres is nice, and overall, I like the way that this offense is trending, and for the Orioles, this has been an upper half team of the big leagues in terms of their run creation, thanks to the fact that Cedric Mullins is having a turn back the clock year. 6 home runs, north of a 4 base, he has been tremendous, but got a lot of other guys that you just need a little bit more of them. Tyler O'Neill, Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, these guys are all hitting at 215 or lower, not necessarily giving you a ton with regards to on-base percentage. Now, Rutschman has been able to give you 4 home runs, and Jordan Westberg is also up to 4 bombs thus far this season with Tyler O'Neill stuck on 2 home runs. You've had Jackson Holiday give you a little bit more at the plate recently, but still just hitting just a 235. As Sakir said, he's got a bit more upside than what he's shown as well, so you're going to need these guys to round into a little bit of form. So I do like the Tigers on the money line here in game number 1. Should be able to get right around about a minus 120 there, and if we do get that 8.5, like we saw when this game was off the board, I'm going to be in on the under. And if we do get Charlie Morton versus Jackson Jobe, like I was seeing lined up by CBS Sports, I'd be setting the Tigers here at a minus 166, and this would be a spot where 8.5 or less would be in on the over 9 or higher, the under. I believe that Charlie Morton's a little bit better than the north of 80 ERA would indicate. I mean, he has been a little bit of a unlucky pitcher this season, but he's always been a power pitcher throughout his career, and now he's getting up there in years. He is well north of 40 years old, and for Morton thus far this season, still been able to give you 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's just getting tattooed really hard. He has given up 5 home runs in his 5 starts thus far this season. The walks are just way up. He's been giving out 6.5 walks per 9 innings as well. 645 fielding depends. So again, that ERA should be coming down. It's up to now at 10.89. So that's not great. He has given up at least 4 runs in all 5 of his starts thus far this season. And he's also had not a lot of run support as well. His team has scored behind him 4 runs or fewer in all 5 of his starts. So we should see a little bit of positivity coming for him. And if you do indeed get Jackson Jobe, and I would probably set this relatively similarly if we do have some sort of a bullpen game, but if you do get Jobe specifically, he's been rock solid in his first 4 starts of the season. 270 ERA, albeit he needs to reduce on the walks. walks as well, 4.5 walks per 9 innings. He has been only getting about 6.5 strikeouts per 9, but this is a kid that was a first-round draft pick in the 2021 draft, a top 10 guy, and I believe that he's starting to be able to find his worth, and he's starting to be able to find just sort of his groove at the big league level. So I do think that if you do get Job versus Charlie Morton, this should be a very demonstrative money line. Heck, even if it's like a bullpen game for the Tigers, I would reduce this a little bit, but in Job versus the Orioles and Charlie Morton, I set the Tigers to where I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 165 on the money line, plus 120 or higher would look at that run line, then in half or less than on the over 9 or higher, the under. 917, 918 on the betting board. The LA Angels hit the road. They're facing off against the Minnesota Twins as you got Simeon Woods Richardson on the bump for the Twins, and you've said Kikuchi. I say that he's starting for the Angels, and the Angels do find themselves as very slight underdogs, anywhere between even money to plus 105, meanwhile, minus 114, minus 120. That number on Minnesota with 8 being the total. Over is minus 115, under is minus 105. I did set the Twins at a minus 122, so I'm going to be willing to dive in on that money line. For Woods Richardson, he's about as league average of a pitcher as it gets. He gives up about 3.2 walks per 9 innings, 8 strikeouts per 9. Fielding independent just a hair above 4. ERA just a hair above 4. So you're not going to get anything amazing. You're not going to get anything terrible. Now, you say Kikuchi, ever since he was traded to the Houston Astros mid-season last year, he has been absolutely dominant. If you take a look at the back half of 2024 into 2025, guy is posting up an ERA that is just a hair below 3. His strikeout numbers have been really good in this time span with north of 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, we've seen the walks be creeping up on him quite a bit here with the LA Angels. He's giving up 4.3 walks per 9 innings, and overall for the season has just a 3.38 ERA, but that fielding independent bore around a 4.31, so that's a bit of an issue. And throughout this time span, he has been giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. It's nothing amazing, it's nothing awful, and he does get to go up against a Minnesota Twins team that they were finally able to bust out with their bats yesterday. As for the Minnesota Twins, it has been an almighty struggle for them. Byron Buxton has been able to give you a little bit of power with 6 home runs, but just a 265 on base. You just need more out of these more contact hitters as Carlos Correa, Ty France, Harrison Bader, Edouard Julien, only at 230 or lower. France has been able to give you about a 330 on base, which has been a little bit helpful. Ryan Jeffers is able to give you a bit of something, but Royce Lewis being on the injured list, you've been dealing with the injury as well to Matt Wallner. That's been hurting them, and for the Angels, this is very much an all-or-nothing team. They're hitting as a collective less than a 225, but you've got Arias Solari's been able to give you 4 home runs. Mike Trout is actually still hitting below the Mendoza line of 200, but he's been able to supply 8 home runs. You've had Logan O'Hoppe, Kyron Paris give you 5+ home runs apiece. Luis Renifo is giving you less than a 250 on base. You just expect a little bit more there, and Tim Anderson is just very much washed right now, to say the least, for the LA Angels. This bullpen is honestly relatively solid as well. You could use Ben Joyce back at the fold as he's currently on the injured list, but Ryan Zephyrian is giving you some good innings. Brock Burke has not been able to duplicate the good back half of the season they had last year, but that's like Kenley Jansen. Whenever you don't put him in like a super duper primetime spot, he always comes through for you. And on the flip side, you do have a Minnesota Twins team that I think that their bullpen is solid. Jorge Alcala could be a little bit hit or miss along Griff and Jax, but Yohan Duran is a really good closer. Danny Kalum has been able to give you some good innings as well. Overall for the season, this has been a Minnesota Twins team that's been right around about 13th in terms of bullpen here. I think that they're going to finish up right in that neighborhood as well. I do have a little bit more faith in them rather than the LA Angels at this point, just because of that injury to Ben Joyce. So I do think that with the Twins, they do find just enough to be able to get the job done here, as Kikuchi has been a little bit suspect since coming on over to the Angels. I did set my total at 8.1, so here at the 8, I do like the over, and I'm willing to lay up to a minus 122 on that Twins money line. 919, 920 on the betting board. The Chicago White Sox are on the road against the Athletics. As for the Sacramento A's, it's Jeffrey Springs getting the start for them, and Jonathan Cannon goes for the White Sox. White Sox are an underdog of between plus 180 to plus 195 and minus 205 to minus 220. That number on the A's, if you're looking to lay the run line of the Athletics, that's more around about a minus 110, and I am going to be willing to lay that run line of the A's. I did set mine at a minus 128 for Jeffrey Springs. He does have north of 5 ERA to begin the season, but he's still getting about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. But here's a real kicker from gets to go against a Chicago White Sox team has been awful with their offense. Second worst in the big leagues entering the yesterday in terms of runs per game, with about 3.1 to 3.2 runs per contest. And I do think that this is going to creep northward just a little bit with getting Andrew Benintendi off the injured list. He's been able to give you multiple home runs, and I've been impressed by what he's been able to bring to the table, but just don't have a lot of guys for the Chicago White Sox team that have been able to move the line, as Lennon Sosa has been able to hit for a little bit north of a 300 on base. Brooks Baldwin has given you a few okay at-bats, but Benintendi's got 4 home runs and 61 at-bats. Nobody else on the roster has north of 3 home runs, and the man with 3 home runs, Andrew Vaughn, hitting a $165 going into yesterday. Matt Theus at the catcher spot has moved the line a little bit, but Luis Robert, what's happened to this guy? He's hitting a $138 this far this season, and for the Athletics, you've got one of the best power hitting teams in all baseball. Tyler Soderstrom enters into yesterday with 9 home runs and north of a 350 on base. Brent Rooker hasn't been able to hit for a ton of average, but 7 home runs, and you got plenty of guys that are finding a way on base. Jacob Wilson doesn't draw any walks, but he's hitting above 300. Lawrence Butler has been able to give you north of a 350 on base. Miguel Andujar, Luis Urias, these guys have been pretty rock solid as well. Now for the A's, this is a bottom half of the big league team with regards to bullpen area. Michael Otans being on the injured list has been a little bit rough. I honestly don't think that having Jose Leclerc out is too much of a loss. TJ McFarland be a little bit rough, but Mason Miller, he's one of the better bullpen pieces that you're going to find in all of baseball. And Justin Turner has been able to give you some good innings as well. For the White Sox, they're not dead last in terms of their bullpen ERA. They've been a bit better than that. Penn Murphy, Cam Boucher, they've been able to give you a bit of something, but they had to have Tyler Gilbert get the unexpected start yesterday as Sean Burke was unable to go. So that means that this bullpen is getting quite spent. Jordan Leisure, Mike Vasile, they've been able to give you some okay innings, but not guys that are going to strike fear into you. And I do think that in terms of Jonathan Cannon and what he's going to be able to bring to the table for the White Sox, a little bit suspect. North of a 5 fielding independent. His strikeouts per 9 rate is below 7. He has been giving up quite a few free passes thus far this season. For Cannon, he's giving up about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, and now he has to pitch in that thin Sacramento air. I do think that the A's take it to him relatively hard in this one. Did some I told it at 8.9 because frankly I just don't think that the White Sox do their part with this total. So like the under, and I do like the A's on the run line. 921, 922, going to be in conjecture with 933, 934 on the card. The Boston Red Sox hit the road to face off against the Cleveland Guardians. In game number 1, which is actually listed at the bottom, 933, 934, it is going to be what we were supposed to be seeing yesterday in Tanner Houck going for the Red Sox and Ben Lively going for Cleveland. And then game number 2 is going to be Walker Buehler on the bump for Boston, and Doug Nikhazy is going to be on the bump for the Cleveland Guardians. How about if we hit Houck versus Lively first? Most places have not relisted this game, but when this game was taken off the board, it was pretty much a pick 'em between -105 to -110 with both Cleveland and Boston with a total of 9 shaded down to the under end. Assuming that we get everything being the same here, I'd be willing to lay up to a -105 with the Guardians money line. As for Ben Lively, he's been relatively solid this season. He does give up a little bit more contact than what you'd like. His command is solid, but not necessarily amazing. He's about a league average pitcher. He's probably going to be giving you somewhere in that neighborhood of like a 385 to a 4 ERA. He's right now got a 386 ERA, 399 fielding dependent, only getting about 6.5 to 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's doing nothing to absolutely implode. And for Tanner Houck throughout his career, he's always been a little bit of a better pitcher when he's been away from home rather than at home. A 365 career road ERA, about a 389 ERA when he's at home, and the 77.66 ERA is very much warped by the fact that he had that 12 runs, 11 which earned, give it up performance against the Tampa Bay Rays about a week or so ago. He's not necessarily a guy that's going to get you a bunch of swings and misses. Even last year, only about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. I do expect the 2.2 home runs per 9 innings to come downward for his career. He's giving up about 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, and this is a Cleveland Guardians unit that, let's call it what it is, they're not necessarily the world's greatest power hitting team. Kyle Manzardo has been able to give you 7 home runs this season, and you do have a few guys that are able to do an okay job of moving the line at the top, especially Stephen Kwan. He's giving you north of a 380 on base, 4 home runs. Loving what I'm seeing there, but these guys towards the bottom of the lineup, Giancarlo Noel, Nolan Jones, Brian Rocchio, they're just not giving you a lot at the plate. Bo Naylor has yet to put it together, and Austin Hedges is still Austin Hedges, so that's a bit of an issue for the Guardians. Last year, they were number 1 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. They've taken a little bit of a dive there with Emmanuel Clase just not being good this year, and Paul Sewald's just not a guy that I'm very bullish on, even in the back half of his career with the Arizona Diamondbacks. But that said, you've still got a lot of good arms like Hunter Gaddis, Tim Herron. They've been utilizing Cade Smith a little bit in the closer spot. Jacob Junis is able to give you multiple innings, so I like what I'm seeing there. And for the Red Sox, this is a bottom half of the big league team in terms of their bullpen, even with Garrett Woodlock in there. And I like Garrett Woodlock in the bullpen. He's able to give you multiple innings. I just don't know what you're going to be able to get out of Liam Hendricks moving forward. He beat the odds just to be able to get back into the big leagues, but that said, he is a guy that is posting up just a lot of walks in general. He's now 36 years old, so that's a bit of a roll of the dice. Justin Wilson is someone that you don't want too much faith in. Aroldis Chapman is still Aroldis Chapman, and for the Boston Red Sox, it's been hit or miss in terms of their lineup. Trevor Story, Alex Bregman in the infield. Both of these guys have been able to supply north of a 275 average, and with Story, 5+ home runs. Tristan Campbell is starting to see a little bit of regression after a great start to the season, but still give you north of 375 on base. Liking what I'm seeing there. The likes of Ace Adane, Rafaela, Jaron Duran in the outfield, you could use a little bit more there, but Weiler Abreu, 4+ home runs. He's doing a good job moving the line, and Rafael Devers, if you take that first week and a half of the season out of the fold, he's still doing an okay job, but still only at 2 home runs. You do need to see a little bit more there. I do think that in terms of the game number 1 in this series between the Guardians and the Boston Red Sox, that the Guardians deserve to be a little bit of a favorite. So did somebody tell it at 8.2 at that 9? I'd be looking at the under. I'd be willing to lay up to a -107 on that money line. And then in terms of 921, 922, the Beeler versus Nick Casey start. Right now for the Guardians, they're the slight favorite. I'm seeing them in a lot of places right around about a -115 to a -120. For Boston, I was seeing as good as about a +104 out there, as bad as a -105, with a total of 8 with a shade down to the under. I was seeing a 7.5 at FanDuel as well. If you could get a 7.5 or an 8, I'd be certainly looking at the over. Now for Walker Buehler, he's been better in his last 2 starts, giving up a combined 3 runs in those 2 starts after a little bit of a shaky first 2 starts of the season. So you do like to see him being able to rebound. His swing and miss stuff isn't quite where it was when he was with the LA Dodgers, but all in all, pretty solid. But for Nick Casey, he's someone that has a little bit of upside to him. I don't think that he's going to be anything amazing. I don't think that he's going to be anything awful. He's probably going to be about a average pitcher. The biggest thing for him when he was at the minor league level was the walks. A career 5.5 walks per 9 innings rate. Was able to lower that last season. Last year at the AA and AAA level in the minor leagues, 2.98 ERA, more like 3 to 3.5 walks per 9 innings. But this being his first MLB start, you have to wonder what he's going to be able to bring to the table. Again, with Boston, it's been a little bit sketchy in terms of their offense, but I do think that they get to him. I think that they're going to be able to knock him out early. And for the Cleveland Guardians, with Class A not being necessarily trustworthy, with having Paul Sewald have his issues, I think that that's going to affect them. And for Boston, having a guy like Garrett Woodlock that's able to give you multiple innings, I think is big in this doubleheader. So in game number 2 between Beeler and Nick Casey, I set my total at 8.6. I like the over, and I set the Red Sox at a -124. Want to back them on the money line. 923, 924 on the betting board. The Houston Astros hit the road. They're facing off against the Kansas City Royals. Michael Wacha, and if he does not give you a good start, it becomes a dying Pac-Man voice. Michael Wacha, 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 goes for the Kansas City Royals, and Framber Valdez is on the bump for Houston, and Houston does find themselves between -134 to -142 favorites, between +118 to +124. That number on the Royals, and the total on this game, it is 8. Over and under both at -110, and I do like the under. I set my total at 7.8. Have a Royals team that entered into Friday dead last in the big leagues, only averaging about 3 runs per contest. That has been less than tremendous, but the Royals at home are actually averaging more runs per game than the Astros on the road. Astros on the road are only generating about 3.6 runs per contest. It has been awful for guys not named Jose Altuve, along with Isaac Paredes, who still, they're not providing a ton of power right now. Paredes, he's currently got 4 home runs. He's been able to supply the team with about a 340 on base. Jose Altuve, he's been able to go deep 3 times. He's hitting north of a 275 for this team as well. But Christian Walker, even though he had a home run in the previous series, hitting below the Mendoza line of 200, you're starting to have the rookie and Cam Smith find it a bit more. He's up to 3 home runs, but still is giving you less than a 315 on base. There's been a lot of suspectness with this lineup. Mauricio Dubon has not been hitting. Jeremy Pena has had his issues in terms of hitting the deep, although he's starting to get on base a little bit more. And then for the Kansas City Royals, you've got a lineup that has Bobby Witt Jr. doing a nice job being able to reach base, 390 on base, only had 2 home runs this season, but still is finding a way to move the line. But like some Michael Massey, Vinny Pasquantino, Freddie Fermin, hitting a 225 or lower and really not giving you a lot in terms of on-base percentage. That's an issue. MJ Melendez has been absolutely awful the last few seasons as well. Miguel Garcia has given you about a 350 on base, but he's the only player other than Drew Waters, along with Bobby Witt Jr., that left the game yesterday with above a 304 on-base percentage that saw any sort of innings whatsoever. And for the Royals, this is a bullpen that has been pretty rock solid. They had to utilize Lucas Hursic yesterday, but that said, he's been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. You're bringing Carlos Aceves, had a little bit of an issue against the Rockies a few days ago, but all in all, he's a really good bullpen piece. John Schreiber has been able to do a nice job locking things down, and this is a Houston Astros unit that they've got one of the better bullpens that you're going to find in all baseball as well. Brian King, Brian Abreu, both of these guys very rock solid in the middle innings. Taylor Scott has really been spinning the bit this season, but you've got Josh Hader, who's been looking like the Josh Hader that we all know and love, so that's big. They've had to trot out their Ryan Gusto as a starter after he began the season coming out of the bullpen. But Forrest Whitley, I think, could be a relatively good reliever for the team as well. Stephen Okert is giving you some good innings. So I do think that this should be a little bit of a lower scoring game for Framber Valdez, Michael Wacha. Both of these guys should see a little bit of positivity coming for Wacha. He's got overall for the season right around a 4.15 ERA, but he's only allowed 1 home run in 26 innings, 313 fielding independent. He's still only going to give you like 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, while Framber Valdez, he can give you 9+ strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's been a bit unlucky this year as well. 4.50 ERA, 3.48 fielding independent. He's allowed 2 home runs over the course of 28 innings, albeit giving up a few more walks along the way. So I do think that both of these guys give you a relatively good performance. I'm in on the under. I set my total at 7.8, and with the Royals, I did set them at a +115, so getting north of +120, I'm in on that money line. 925, 926 on the main board. The Walker Texas Rangers hit the road. They're facing off against the San Francisco Giants. Robbie Ray says hit Pepper Ray to another start, and Tyler Mully is on the bump for Texas. Total on scheme is 8. Unders between -115 to -120. Overs between even to -105, and the Giants are between -110 to -115 favors, and between even money to -105. That number on the Texas Rangers, and with the Rangers, I set them at a +113. So at a -110, I wouldn't want to go past that with the Giants, but I'm going to be willing to back them on the money line for Robbie Ray. I don't even know if Robbie Ray knows where the ball is going to go from time to time, but he's been a career 11 strikeouts per 9 innings guy. He does a really good job of being able to get those swings and misses, but when he does get it, he gets hit hard. Ever since he joined the Giants, he's been giving up north of 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. He is, for his career, giving up darn near 4 walks per 9 innings as well, and for the Giants as far as the season, 24 and a third innings, he has allowed 18 walks. That is the most out there in all of baseball, but he's been able to do a nice job of being able to mitigate a lot of those base runners with the way that he's able to get strikeouts. And on the flip side, you've got a guy in Tyler Mully that just looks completely reborn. He was dealing with injuries over the last few seasons. I still remember he had one of the best road ERAs in the big leagues with the Cincinnati Reds many years ago, and thus far for Tyler Mully, so far so good. How about a 0.68 ERA with a 2.49 fielding independent? He's not giving up a home run in 26 and 2/3 innings, albeit he's had his walks issues as well. He's getting 4 walks per 9. He doesn't have the same power stuff that Robbie Ray does. 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. For his career, closer to about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's still trying to be able to get back into form, but all in all, I do think that both of these pitchers give you a relatively solid performances. I do have my question marks with the Texas Rangers bullpen moving forward. Guys like Mark Church, Luke Jackson, they're not like the world's worst relief pieces, but at the same time, they're not necessarily guys that you feel amazing about. And for the Texas Rangers lineup, it has been one of the worst in all of baseball, but much of that has been due to injury. Getting back Wyatt Langford, who's been able to give you 5 home runs, actually now 6 home runs for the season is big. They are dealing with the injury to Corey Seager, and Corey Seager was really starting to round into form. That's going to be hurting them quite a bit, especially with Jake Berger, Marcus Semien, Jock Peterson, all hanging below a $1.75, and all these guys give you less than a 225 on base. Josh Young coming back is going to be able to help out this team quite a bit, and you do have Adolis Garcia is giving you 4 home runs, but just a 280 on base. He's had a tough time moving the line in general. I do like what Josh Smith is able to bring to the table, and then on the flip side, for the Giants, you've had Jungle Lee do a really good job, hitting well north of a 300 for this unit, and for the San Francisco Giants, Matt Chapman has been great with the glove. Sometimes can be a little bit suspect with the bat, but he's been able to find a way to move the line this season, only getting about a 227 in terms of average, but 5 bombs north of a 390 on base. Eloy Ramos has had a tough time being a reach base along with William Adames. Both of these guys a sub 280 on base going into yesterday, but Mikey Stremski is hovering right around about a 400 in terms of on base. Tyler Fitzgerald not a ton of power like we were seeing over the summer, but he's hitting about a 300 as well. And then for the Giants, I think that this is going to be a solid bullpen, perhaps a little bit above average in terms of a league average, as Aiden Birdsong has been a relatively good long guy for the team. Camilo Udov also has his issues, but Spencer Bivens can give you multiple innings. Randy Rodriguez can give you some solid innings. Eric Miller, all these guys are doing a pretty rock-solid job. So I do feel like the Giants should be a slight favorite here. Set them at a -113. I'm going to be willing to back them on the money line. And I did set my total at a 7.6. So you're at the 8. I'm in on the under 927, 928 on the betting board. The Tampa Bay Rays are on the road against the San Diego Padres. Dylan Cease is on the bump for the Pods, and Ryan Pepiot is on the bump for the Tampa Bay Rays. The total on this game is 7. The over is -120, and the under is even. And with the Pods, you're going to be getting them between -142 to a -155, +130 to +132 is that number on Tampa Bay, and I did set the Padres at a -154 on the money line. For Dylan Cease, he's a good swing and miss guy that sometimes has a little bit of an issue with the walks. He's always throughout his career given up north of 3 walks per 9 innings, and I believe that he's pitched much better than that 6.04 ERA would indicate. A 262 fielding independent through his first 5 starts. He has only allowed 2 home runs as far this season. He's still getting the 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's been reducing on the walks. Just been a case where the balls have not been finding gloves when they've been put in play, and I do think that there should be a little bit of positivity moving forward. He's now given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 3 out of his last 4 starts. Just really got lit up in that start against the Sacramento A's. So I do think that he's going to be able to find it moving forward. And for Ryan Pepiot, He's a good swing and miss guy that has sometimes been really good in terms of his command. Sometimes it's been really bad. You just don't know what you're going to get year after year out of him. But right now this season, about 3 walks per 9 innings, 10 strikeouts per 9. But what has killed him is the deep ball. 8 home runs given up in his 5 starts across 28 innings. So that's an issue that he's going to need to work on it for Ryan Pepiot. It's always interesting to watch this guy be able to perform on the road because he was pitching last year at the Trop. That was really his best friend when he was with the Tampa Bay Rays, but that said, throughout his career, a 2.99 road ERA compared to a 3.76 home ERA, and when he's been on the road, he has given up about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, but this is a San Diego Padres team that is very much hampered by injuries. You still have Manny Machado, you still have Fernando Tatis Jr. These guys are absolutely going to be able to rip the cover off the ball, but that said, Jackson Merrill is currently dealing with injury. Luis Arias has to go out on Sunday Night Baseball as well, so you've got a lot of guys that are currently not in the lineup, so this Padres team is having to mix and match with the likes of Taylor Wade and company, getting some at-bats like yesterday they had to have at the 7-hole Teresa O'Neill, so that's not necessarily where you want to be. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, this offense has been very upstart. You've had a guy in Jonathan Aranda hit well north of a 300. He's been able to give the team 4 home runs this season. Junior Caminero, 5+ bombs. He's doing a solid job finding a way on base. Yandy Diaz, after a rough start to the season, he's finding a way on. Even what you've been able to get out of someone like Cameron Misner, who's sitting well above a 300. Jake Magnum is sitting above a 300. These guys have been able to do a nice job as well. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, even though the bullpen has been a little bit suspect to begin the season, you know that these guys are going to be able to round into form. You've got so many guys like Hunter Biggie, Mason Montgomery, Pete Fairbanks, Edwin Uceta that all had sub 3.5 ERAs last season. So I do think that this is a relatively solid pitcher's duel. I think we've gone just a little bit too low in terms of the total. Even with the injuries to the Padres, I did set my total at 7.2. I'm going to be looking at the over for the Padres. I did set them on the money line at a minus 154. Don't want to really take a shot on the run line here because I do think that this has a propensity to be a lower scoring game. So rolling with the chalkier money line to go along the over, and we're going to have things up 9:29, 9:30 on the betting board. The Miami Marlins are on the road against the Seattle Mariners. Luis Castillo is on the bump for Seattle, and Connor Gillespie is on the bump for Miami. Miami is a underdog of between plus 190 and plus 204. Meanwhile, between minus 220 to minus 235 is that number on Seattle. 7.5 is the total. The over is minus 115. Under is minus 105, and I did set my total at 7.4. I'm going to be in on the under for the Marlins. I just don't know if they're going to do their part with this total, even though you have quite a few guys that are doing a nice job, be able to reach base. Like you had Xavier Edwards last year, be able to hit for a cycle. He's been able to give you north of a 350 on base. Getting back Jesus Sanchez, that's going to be able to help him out quite a bit as well. I think that these guys do have some tremendous upside with them, but other than Matt Mervis, who's been able to give you 7 home runs this far this season, you just don't have a lot of guys that are going to rip the cover off the ball. And for Seattle, it's a ballpark that it suppresses offense more so than Coors Field elevates offense. So that's a big note right there. And additionally, for the Miami Marlins, I must say, you've been able to get quite a bit of something out of Augustin Ramirez, who's just come up to the big league level. I think that he had hit in like 5 out of his first 6 at-bats, something like that. So that's going to be able to help him out. And then for the Seattle Mariners, you've got J.P. Crawford, who's starting to move the line. He entered into yesterday with a 4-iron base, or a Polanco. After he had a rough season last year, he's been solid now. You've got a few guys like Rowdy Tellez, Julio Rodriguez, Luke Raley, hitting below the mid-dose line of 200. They need to pick it up, but we've been able to get great production out of Kyle Raleigh. He's not necessarily known for being able to get on base consistently, but 9 home runs going into yesterday, that was leading the big leagues. Miles Mastrobuoni has been able to give you some solid at-bats as well. And for Seattle, this has been about a league average bullpen thus far this season, as Andres Munoz is one of the best closers that you're going to find in all baseball, but now they've got Gregory Santos back on the injured list, so that means that Edward Bazardo probably going to be looking at a few innings. They've had Gabe Spires be a little bit up and down for the team as well. Colin Sider, Trent Thornton, these are guys that they are a little bit suspect to say the least. Taylor Cicado, you don't know what you're going to be able to get out of him. And then on the flip side for the Miami Marlins, it's the Anthonys, Anthony Veziano, Anthony Bender, that have been some of your main guys for this unit, but it is Miami Marlins bullpen that is suspect. I think that that's the best way of being able to put it. Calvin Fauché has been off to a rough start to the season. He's got north of a 4 ERA. That should be coming down. Jesus Tinoco is now finding himself in the closer's role. That's not necessarily a place where you want to be. Ronnie Enriquez has actually been a relatively good long guy, but for Connor Gillespie, he was a very highly touted prospect with both the Cleveland Guardians along with the Baltimore Orioles over the last few seasons. He's been able to show some moments of brilliance. He's had some moments where he has been showing anything but brilliance, as right now he's got a 6.75 ERA. The fielding independent is a little bit better, so we should be seeing some positivity here. About 8 strikeouts to 3 walks for 9 innings. He's been hurt by the deep ball, giving up about a home run and a half per 9 innings, but he's actually done a worse job when he has been at home rather than away from home. And I do think that this is going to be a low-scoring slog out there in Seattle, especially with Luis Castillo. Starting to see a little bit of a dip in terms of swing and miss stuff, being able to be in these elements where a ball that might be flying out in another park is going to be able to be held in by the fences here. That's going to be big for him. And for Luis Castillo, he has given up a combined 9 runs over the course of 9 1/3 innings in his last 2 starts, but when he's been at home this season, he has been really rocking and rolling. A combined 4 runs allowed in 17 innings in his 3 starts out there, and I do think that he's going to be able to deliver a nice performance here for the Mariners. I set them on the money line at a -242. If you're looking to lay a run half, I was willing to go up to about a -117 or so to go along with this total under, as I did set my total at 7.4, and right now that run line price right around about -105. Willing to lay that run line to go along the under, and that'll wrap things up for the Saturday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to William Boor over at Action Network for joining me in the last segment. If you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at unit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.